In America, we tend to cluster around people who are most like ourselves, particularly those with similar political and religious views. Yes, our nation has become increasingly more polarized. Yet, as I read the stories of Jesus, we are challenged to think and to act differently. This story from Luke's Gospel is just one example. You're no doubt familiar with the 3 points that have been shared about the story of the Good Samaritan. The first is that the despised Samaritan sees with his eyes the man in need, when he in fact had been invisible to the priest and the Levite who had passed him by. Well, actually, they did see him, but they promptly ignored him. They saw him, but not as a neighbor. Instead, they perceived him to be a burden, maybe even a threat, and so they walked by. A second point to the story is that the Samaritan not only sees the man in need as a neighbor, but he goes over to help him. The first 2 passerbys gave this man a wide berth, which created even more distance between them. But the Samaritan goes to him and makes himself vulnerable in that time of closeness. A third point of the story is that after seeing him and coming close to him, the Samaritan has great compassion on him. He tends his wounds, he transports him to the inn, he makes sure that he is taken care of now and into the future. So in this story of Luke's telling, Jesus was answering a lawyer's question, a question that no doubt had been set up, intended to trap him. The lawyer asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" And then Jesus responded by sharing the story, suggesting that God comes where we least expect God to be, and demonstrates for us what it really looks like to be Christ-like to others, even those who are far different from ourselves. You see, our God calls us to live out excessive forms of showing and practicing hospitality. We might even call it radical hospitality. We're called as Christ followers to be countercultural, to be very different, drastically different from the rest of society and the world, as we learn and model what it means to live and to love each other across our differences. That is a challenge, I know. It's a challenge for us now in these days, just as it was in Jesus' time. The stories of Jesus model for us God's intentions for our lives. We know that Jesus ate with tax collectors and sinners. Jesus welcomed children. He talked to women, breaking the barrier. He healed those who were considered to be unclean. He went to those who were estranged and not welcomed by the community of faith. Jesus practiced the ministry of radical hospitality that expanded the welcome to people who were far different from the cultural norms, the accepted practices of the day. I wonder sometimes, who are the excluded? Who are the uninvited by the church in these times? It's been said more than once by more than one person that the Church of the Brethren is the best kept secret around. We do place a high priority on feeding the hungry. We care for each other's needs, and we serve the homeless and the displaced. We meet earnestly and often for prayer together. We make an honest attempt at doing good in Jesus' name, placing a strong emphasis on our understanding of what it means to be hospitable to others. But there is a challenge. And as I see it from this story of the Good Samaritan, when we practice true hospitality, when we really welcome the stranger, it also means that we need to be willing to stand down in our own way of doing things. It means that we need to pay close attention to the stories, to the joys and the sorrows of people that we know little or nothing about. It means that we are willing to hear why people are who they have become. In this story today of the Good Samaritan, the man saw with eyes of compassion. He responded with wonderful generosity in a very tenuous situation. He placed himself at risk. He incurred a great inconvenience as he paid attention to the person's needs. This person who was very much unlike himself. Practicing hospitality requires that we are willing to bear our own lives and allow our own inadequacies to show through. It requires of us a personal awareness that we too are fallible, that we too welcome grace and mercy, so that God can be seen through our own lives and our own work. It means that we are aware and in touch with the fact that we are imperfect people, but we're still learning and trying to learn the art of hospitality and welcoming others. Hospitality then is a way of being in the world. It happens in our homes and around our tables. It happens in restaurants. It happens down at Sheets and over at Redner's Market. It happens in our classrooms and in our offices and wherever we meet someone on the sidewalk. Hospitality provides a place, a space, where it's safe to be yourself, where you can ask questions that you have and engage in a respectful exchange of differing views. Author and theologian Henry Nouwen describes the process of hospitality as creating a space and the time, the space and the time, which affords the freedom for the stranger to be their own authentic self and to become a friend. It does not allow for creating people in our own image, and it's most often experienced by one person simply being heard and understood by another. We know the master host, the one whom we follow, is Jesus, the one who practiced hospitality wherever he went. And today, he is the one who invites us to his table as we share now in a time of communing together.